Let me ask you to put your product development hat on. And if you pair Twitter all the way back, what is it? And what do you think it can be in 10 years' time?
Well, what I said is that I think Twitter is currently the best, or looked at another way, the least bad public square. A forum for the exchange of ideas nationally and internationally, but I think it could be a lot better at that. In order to be better at that, it needs to really get rid of the bots and the scams and spammers and basically anyone trying to create sort of fake influence on the site by where it's one person or one entity operating 100,000 accounts, or obviously scammers are not good, and Twitter really needs to do a much better job at that. It also needs to build more trust with users. I think the way to do that is by open sourcing the algorithm so everyone can see how the algorithm works and can suggest improvements and changes. I would literally just put the Twitter algorithm on GitHub and say, like, hey, anyone want to suggest changes to this, please go ahead. And just, you really want transparency to build trust. And then any sort of adjustments to tweets or any human intervention with any account on Twitter should be highlighted as a Twitter person took the following action with your account or with this tweet, so that you're not sort of sitting there in the dark wondering, why did this tweet not get any attention, or why did this one get a lot of attention? It's far too random. And then I think Twitter needs to be much more even-handed. It currently has a strong left bias because it's based in San Francisco. I don't think the people that there necessarily intend, or at least perhaps some of them don't intend to have a left bias. They just, from their perspective, it seems moderate, but they're just coming at it from an environment that is very far left. So. But then this fails to build trust in the rest of the United States and also perhaps in other parts of the world, because Twitter needs to be even-handed and be, I think I said publicly, victory would be that the most far right 10% and the most far left 10% are equally upset. I don't think this is a situation where you're going to get necessarily a lot of praise. you're just gonna balance the anger.
So how do you? Because people will automatically associate you with Tesla and you with Twitter. Is there any risk in your mind that the actions that you're going to take at Twitter, which you've admitted freely will upset some people, potentially lead to a commercial impact on Tesla?
I'm confident that we will be able to sell all the cars we can make. I mean, currently, the lead time for ordering a Tesla is ridiculously long. So our issue is not demand, it is production.
But that's at the moment because of the global supply chains and the chip shortages. That's less around electric car demand, which we are expecting to go absolutely through the roof, and you obviously have very ambitious targets for that at Tesla.
Yeah, I mean, even before there was the supply chain issues, Tesla demand exceeded production. So now its demand is exceeding production to a ridiculous degree. We're actually probably going to limit or just stop taking orders for anything beyond a certain period of time, because some of the timing is like a year away. Anyway, the frustration that we're seeing from customers is being unable to get them a car, not are they willing or interested in buying a car. Basically, I think zero about demand generation and a lot about production and engineering and supply chain.
I have two more questions on Twitter, if I may, before we turn for the rest of the session to Tesla. How confident are you the deal will happen? And is there a risk, this is all one question, and is there a risk, because you're putting a lot of your personal stake up for this to fund it, is there a risk that if it all goes south, you're imperiling your stake in Tesla, potentially hurting Tesla financially and maybe even SpaceX, if it all goes to pot? That's the technical term.
Yeah, sure. I think there's still a lot of things that need to get done before this deal concludes. Obviously, there's not yet even been a shareholder vote. And Twitter has not yet filed the proxy for a shareholder vote. So there are still, some outstanding questions that need to be resolved. So it is certainly not a done deal. Just objectively, it is not a done deal. The best case scenario is that this would be, I think, perhaps done in 2 or 3 months. Yeah.
And the final question, and this is really the two-paid elephant in the room: are you planning to let Donald Trump back on?
Well, I think there's a general question of should Twitter have permanent bans? I've talked with Jack Dorsey about this, and he and I are of the same mind, which is that permanent bans should be extremely rare and really reserved for people where they're trying to, for accounts that are bots or spam scam accounts, where there's just no legitimacy to the account at all. I do think that it was not correct to ban Donald Trump. I think that was a mistake, because it alienated a large part of the country and did not ultimately result in Donald Trump not having a voice. He is now going to be on Truth Social, as will a large part of the right in the United States, and so I think this could end up being, frankly, worse than having a single forum where everyone can debate. I guess the answer is that I would reverse the perma ban. Obviously, I don't own Twitter yet, so this is not like a thing that will definitely happen, because what if I don't own Twitter? But my opinion, and Jack Dorsey, I want to be clear, shares this opinion, is that we should not have perma bans. Now that doesn't mean that somebody gets to say whatever they want to say. If they say something that is illegal or otherwise, just destructive to the world, then that there should be perhaps a timeout, a temporary suspension, or that particular tweet should be made invisible or have very limited traction. But I think perma bans just fundamentally undermine trust in Twitter as a town square where everyone can voice their opinion. It was I think it was a morally bad decision, to be clear, and foolish in the extreme.
Even after he egged on the crowd who went to the US Capitol, some of them carrying nooses, you still think it was a mistake to remove him?
I think if there are tweets that are wrong, they should, and bad, those should be either deleted or made invisible. And a suspension, a temporary suspension is appropriate, but not a permanent ban.
So if the deal completes, he might potentially come back on, but with the understanding that if he does something similar again, he'll be back in the sin bin.
He has publicly stated that he will not be coming back to Twitter, and that he will only be on Truth Social. And this is the point that I'm trying to make, which is perhaps not getting across, is that banning Trump from Twitter didn't end Trump's voice. It will amplify it among the right. And this is why it is morally wrong and flat out stupid